All right, ladies and gentlemen, guess what? I have been a very lucky person in that all of my wildest dreams of this channel are coming true. In that, I have been given free video games, which, hooray for me. And these free video games that I've been given, which, by the way, like, that is the entirety of all that I have ever wanted from this channel, is to occasionally receive free video games. And the fact that some of y'all, my viewers, have been kind enough and good enough as to provide me with codes of games that they have created. I've been very, very pleased. First of all, y'all have made some good games. Like, not gonna lie, there's not a game that I have encountered yet that I have been like, oh boy, what are we gonna do with this one? Every single one of them has been of the highest quality. And this one, La Sombra, see, is a game where you play the shadow. Yes. Anyway, this game is a stealth game, pure and simple. This is what it is. And you have, you know, I was told by the creator, follower of this channel, viewer named Dan. I believe his name is Dan because Dan Dans is his developer name. Developed and published by Dan Dans. So, yes, I believe Dan is the man. Anyway, regardless, he told me that the art style was based on Saul Bass, if you know who that is. Saul Bass, iconic designer from, like, he did a lot of his best work, arguably 60s and 70s. Well, and I mean, West Side Story, he created the West Side Story poster, which is iconic, and that was, what, 56? Anyway, but he also created things like the poster for Vertigo, and Anatomy of a Murder, and if you look up any of these posters, you will be immediately like, oh, right, I know that guy. He is very iconic. His style has been copied by so many people because it's so, like, classy. And so, yeah, you're playing this game. Basically, here's the deal. So you are a cat burglar, and you are trying to steal this very priceless tiara out of this building, and you're doing it on a night where there's a party, so like most of the security people are going to be downstairs, except for things go wrong. These like terrorist dudes show up, and they are something with a nuclear warhead. A lot of this story is told without words, which I appreciate very much. So yeah, very interesting. You know, surprisingly deep world, in spite of the fact that, like, there's not a lot said. You know, you do have, and I do love, like, you know, the trope of the geeky tech guy in the van somewhere who is like, yeah, making it happen, and, you know, like, monitoring the situation, and then, like, you know, hot female protagonist inside, like, doing something. We would think it like Dex or Ghost. Those are like two excellent examples of the dynamic we're talking about, and also two excellent games. Now, if you're asking me specifically what this game most reminds me of, I would be forced to tell you Roombo, which is a game about a murderous vacuum robot, a Roomba, that, like, people break into the house, and the Roomba is like, well, I guess now I have to murder these people. Now, here's the interesting thing. La Sombra. Like, normally you would think, like, okay, you're there as a cat burglar, but then the building gets invaded by terrorists. You should just leave. Except for there's a twist in the tale, because you find this device, and you will see it at some point in the footage. I will tell you this, quick gripe. This is a small gripe, but it is a gripe that I do have. Is that there's only one game save for this game at a time. I prefer to have multiple game save slots, especially for the purposes of reviewing, because I like to play a game for a little bit, and then I like to kind of show things from the beginning so that I'm able to, like, show that I don't completely suck at a game. Which, yeah, mission failed on this one. Like, I died a lot. So much of this game, it's very much like stealth games that you have seen before. But, in the sense that, like, stealth games that you've seen before, you do have to, memorize enemy positions and memorize level design. And this has helped, as you pick up this device, this little bit of technology, which is the only reason why you don't just hightail it back the way you came, which would be, reasonably easy. The reason that you don't do that is because you have this new bit of technology which allows you to hack electronic stuff. And early on, this is like, radios and payphones and, things that just make noise that distract the terrorists who are guarding the area. And, or maybe these are the guards. I don't know. They're dressed like terrorists. They could be the actual. No, they're dressed like the terrorists. So I'm going to go ahead, because the guards are supposed to be down at the party. There's a big party going on, which is your cover to cat burglarize the thing. Now, as you're starting off in the early levels, the part that's going to be frustrating is that, like, you don't have any sort of, like, schniggity schnack, stab him in the back of the neck, turn his neck the wrong way, drop a guard, clunk his head, knock him out, drag him behind a shelf or something. You don't have any of those type of skills. But remember, it does make sense. You are a cat burglar. You are not an assassin. Two very different skill sets, although both high in stealth. And so, yeah, two completely different character classes. It's like, being like, oh, well, wizards and clerics both can do magic, therefore the same. Yes? No, not the same. Not the same at all. Because, to the untrained eye, like, oh, they're the same. Sneaky, sneaky. Both the assassin and the cat burglar, but very much like in D&D, those of you who know your D&D, a cleric gets their magical abilities from the god that they worship because they are a cleric in a religious order of some sort, and the wizard gets it from, study in a school of wizardry, like a deep and abiding understanding of these traditions of magic that come out of very old books that have been passed down through the generations, so very different origins for the magic, and very different in the type of applications of it. So the same way that, like, yes, sneaky, sneaky assassin, sneaky, sneaky cat burglar, but, like, early on, you are not going to be able to drop anybody, and you will find this a little bit like, if you're like me, where you don't play a lot of stealth games, and whenever you do, it's like, I feel a little bit like the Dos Equis guy, like, I don't always play stealth games, but when I do, I play Dishonored. You know, because Dishonored, like, yeah, you gotta be stealthy, but you also get to, like, schniggity schnack, like, come up behind people with your little dagger and do your business. You know, like, that's the part that I'm much more accustomed to. You know, I have played the, I always get these confused. I think it's Splinter Cell, because there's Siphon Filter and there's Splinter Cell, and they are not the same. I think it's Splinter Cell, pretty sure. The one where you have the night vision goggles. Anyway, regardless, there's probably night vision in, yeah, both. Anyway, regardless, the point is, I'm not always great at stealth games, as you have no doubt seen by now. And the interesting thing about this game is that you have a very limited scope of view. And so you can't just, like, see for distances and distances and then be like, haha, I know exactly what to do and where to go and how to handle the... Nope. Like, you have to, like, first of all, you're going to have to take some chances that are going to result in your death. But it's easy to restart, and it always restarts you from a reasonable place in relation to where you were when you died. Like, you will respawn to safety, and depending on what part of the level you died on, that will affect sort of where you spawn. Anyway, and, you know, it's very handy to get your bearings again and be like, okay, here we go. Let's try not to be a complete idiot this time. Let's not rouse every guard that we can, or, like, you know, ring the payphone and then start walking before the guard has even turned to go be like, what? A payphone is ringing? That's odd. Anyway, so, like, yeah, I've done a lot of very terrible gameplay, and here's the funny thing. So I reset the game save data because I played this for a bit, and I made it farther than you will see in the gameplay footage that I have playing right now. I made it much farther than this, actually. You know, and was able to, like, level up my device, my jammer, I forget what it's called in the game. Anyway, here's the thing. There are real-world devices that work like this device. We're talking about the Flipper Zero, which was the first, like, massively, how do you say, accessible device. I think they're now illegal to sell in America, Amazon doesn't sell them anymore. We'll put it that way. And they're kind of expensive. You can still get them on AliExpress. You know, you can. They're like just under $300, but what it does is it's a tool that can, like, hack any, I think it does infrared and RFIDs, and so, like, you can bypass security gates, you can you know, turn on TVs, anything with an infrared receiver, you can, and, like, basically has a little screen and you can flip through it and be like, I want to hack that thing, and with the push of a button. The one I think is hilarious, and you should get one of these and then absolutely do it constantly, is that you can, like, really wreck a Tesla's day. Like, and it's many ways. Like, look, I support electronic vehicles. I think they're fantastic, but also I hate Elon Musk with every fiber of my being. And so, like, the funny thing to do, this is a very low impact, like, you can just open the charging port. Like, if you're out in traffic and you have your iFlipper Zero, or no, Flipper Zero, not iFlipper, Flipper Zero, or there's another one on Kickstarter right now, and I seriously might get me one of these. It's called the M1, and it is a it does the same thing. Plus, I think it does a few extra, like, because it does RFIDs. It does, and it's a bit cheaper. Infrared, RFID, NFC, sub 1 gigahertz signals, which, lots of things use. It also, like, you can plug stuff into it. Like, you can actually, like, putz around with GPIO pins and, like, breadboard some stuff. There's a lot that you can do with this Mamma Jamma. I really like, it's hard to not want one of these for sure. It just looks so cool. Anyway, regardless, but in the game you have one of these devices. So you're basically going around and you are, like, pestering all of the guards by making phones ring and by making, radios go off. And it's also how you open doors. But you have to level the thing up, and there's a bit of Metroidvania. I mean, it's not a Metroidvania, obviously. It's a stealth game. But there's a little Metroidvania-ish in it, in that, like, you do need to go back and explore different parts of levels that you may have missed, because the, as you level up your little controller device, you will be able to go back to parts of the level of different floors that you have not been able to access before. And, it's like 100-story building, but you're not gonna be on all 100 floors. But there's a lot of stuff that you can access over time. There's a window washer scaffolding that you can raise and lower and move around. And, there's a lot of, like, you can get into elevators and just a whole bunch of different stuff. And, the funny thing about this game is that I kept forgetting that this was a game that someone had sent to me to take a look at, rather than a game that I myself purchased on Steam, which, thanks, Dan the man, for the code, because, like, this game is really cool. And although I'm not good at stealth games, as you can see, like, I do like that, because I played Roombo First Blood quite a bit, actually. I don't remember if I beat that one or not, but, like, pretty far. I had a lot of fun with it. And I'm reminded very much of that game with this game. And so a lot of the same mechanics, where you are sneaking as best as you can, and sometimes you really gotta, go for it, and sometimes that's gonna go well for you, and sometimes it's gonna go terribly. And then over time, you develop the ability to start dropping guards a little bit, but not until after you've really, really upgraded your device. And so, like, the game gets more involved over time as you get into it, and the story deepens, and there's more stuff to do, and you have to make choices. Is really interesting. And so you go from being, like, the cat burglar to, like, kind of the hero, like, kind of saving the day and whatnot. But you are La Sombra, the shadow, which I like it. I like the feel of this game. I like the music really makes it feel like an old school heist movie. And like, if the rumor is true and every man, like, really just wishes that they could be a part of a heist, maybe it's true. Maybe it is true. Maybe that's what we all want. Isn't that a freaking Dane Cook thing? Most of the time when Dane Cook is like, hey, you know how every person wants to, and then he'll say something outlandish that like nobody wants to do, you know? Yeah, you know how every person likes to, you know, break and enter? I remember that one being a Dane Cook thing, and I'm like, I have never been guilty of breaking and entering. But have I wanted to do a heist which would involve breaking and entering? Sure, but like, I would need to be, and most of us would, let's be honest with yourself. If you were involved in a heist, you would be like somebody's cousin that gets brought in at the last second and ends up tripping the alarm that gets half the team killed. But like, that cousin very often survives because then they talk crap about him afterward. Like, it's the whole thing. Anyway, regardless, but this game has the vibe. It's really good at having that vibe, and it's really good at presenting an interesting story and an interesting art style and an interesting gameplay experience. So yeah, like, I discussed this with the creator beforehand, and he was like, you can do whatever you like. You can put a out of 10 score on it, because I am trying to decide that beforehand with the creator of whichever game we're working with. And yeah, I just because you know, all of a sudden I'm getting some game keys of games that I otherwise would not have had because they were created by creators who also watch this channel, which is awesome. I love everything about that. Like, that is hooray. Like, hooray for all of us. Hooray that I have a channel where I'm getting a few free games every now and again. That's awesome. And hooray that I have a channel where people make good games that I legitimately enjoy playing. You know, all of these things are super duper, and I'm a fan. And so, yeah, but I do have my discretion, and I think the fact that I legitimately forgot that I was playing a game that I was sent rather than a game that I purchased for myself says a lot, and says like, hey, let's put an out of 10 score on this. So let's put an out of 10 score on this. All right, 2 quick things, ladies and gentlemen, before I reveal this score. Number 1, sorry, the M1 is the Kickstarter for it is closed, and I don't think they're being sold commercially. I was not able to find them. And number 2, I don't think I finished the fact that the cool thing to do with a Flipper Zero that's just annoying to Tesla drivers, but not actually, like, you know, because you could do some legitimately problematic things. But to flip open their charging port while you're in traffic, which is behind one of the taillights. So just all of a sudden they're driving down the street and the taillight goes boop, and I would be willing to bet that there's something on the display that's like, your charging port is open, and they're like, what the son of a diddly? It's the 4th time this week, you know? Like, because people with Flipper Zeros are just out there causing mayhem. Which, yeah, brings us to our final score for La Sombra, which is an 8 out of a possible 10 totally legal Flipper Zeros. I'm telling you, this game is like finished product good. And it's really fun, and the art style is good, and the music is like just the perfect right feel, but also enough in the background so you feel the tension of a heist, and of sneaking around, but you don't like constantly notice it, so you don't notice when it loops. It's really, really well done. Everything about this game, I was very impressed. You know, so for a viewer of this channel to be like, hey, I made this game, and here's this game, and it's fantastic. Like, it's really well done. I think this should, because Roombo is getting to be reasonably well-known indie game. I think this one here, I think our friend La Sombra deserves considerably more love, because I think it's got a lot of the same thing. Yeah. There were times where I felt frustrated because even though I kind of knew where I was supposed to go, I forgot the order of operations on how to get there, which, is understandable. It happens, is whatever. Like, stealth games, it do be like that sometimes, where like, you've played your way through a little bit and you're like, okay, I know where to go, and then you walk right into a guard and get shot. And you're like, dang it, I know where I'm going. Like, anyway. Yeah, I'm not great at stealth games, but I really, really enjoyed this one. Had the vibe, like, I love, like, there are some decent, stealth type movies of this era. Let me make a recommendation to you. Hard to find this movie because of the number of people that are in it. Because it's basically How the West Was Won. It's a mad, 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 mad world, like ensemble, big cast. But for a heist movie at the U.S. Mint, and it's called Who's Minding the Mint? It's got Milton Berle. It's got Gilligan from Gilligan's Island. It's got Klinger from MASH, Jamie Starr. It's got it's so many really fun actors in that movie, and it's hilarious. It's a really good heist, but it's also so funny. Yeah, highly recommended. It totally holds up, and it's got the music of that movie is very similar to this, and there's a little fun, kind of sense of humor with this a little bit, not to where it's like, this is a hilarious, something, but it's playful, and I like that. La Sombra is really good. Yeah, I totally enjoyed it. Anyway, I'm gonna stop yapping. But to Dan the Man, dude, you got a great game. I'm gonna put a review on it on Steam. I would encourage y'all, if you could pick this one up, support a viewer, that'd be awesome. But hold yourself on, because here's the thing. I'm going to do a giveaway. I have a few keys that Dan was nice enough to send over to me. I have extra keys for this game that I will be giving away. And it's a really fun game, and I am trying to decide how I want to do that giveaway, but I'm totally giving away some keys. You heard it here first. Anyway, people, that's going to do it for this one, and I will see you in the next one. Okay, bye.